Now we're going to get into the meat of editing your page, the actual sections that have the content. In a previous video I showed you how to do some simple stuff with the config toml file, including changing the colors, which you can see have now been changed, and changing the hero image. So you see I've added some puppies in here, everybody loves puppies, and some new text for the hero. But if you notice, if we go to the first element, it's still the same section that was in the guide. So what we need to learn how to do is to make that section our own. So to do that, all you need to do is change the name of a section and then change the content of the file. That's probably the easiest way to go. You can start from scratch and make a brand new file, but it's a little more involved because you have to make sure to put the front matter in. So I'm going to take this file that's for the install section, that being the very first one here, and I'm going to change it to something appropriate for this. So I'm going to, looks like I'm going to get the install MD file here, and I'm going to edit that. So first thing to realize is that the weight up here in the front matter, remember the front matter is that which appears between the series of plus signs, determines when the page will go. So if I make a page and I change its weight to like 5, it's going to appear first before this page, which is at 10. So when I make pages, I set the weights in increments of 10. That way if later I want to come and insert a page in between, I can set its weight to halfway between. So that's a good idea. Excuse me, but this is no longer a setting. So the settings that are here in this page, you can look at the guide to see what the total front matter page settings are. But the ones that are most important to you are the title. That will determine what goes here. So if I want to start off by changing that, I could change the title from that to what you need. Alright. So if this is a website about puppies, then what do you need to get started? Well, you need a puppy, I suppose. Anyway, if I go ahead and save that, you'll see that the title changed to what you need, but the link, it still says install, because by default, if I, for example, remember if you put a hashtag in front of something, you're turning it off. If I turn off the link text setting, then what you'll see is that the section picked up the same title. The link is the same as the title. Now sometimes you want your links text to be a lot smaller than your title because there's not that much room up there. So if that's the case, then you can use the link text and put something smaller up there and just put like needs or something like that. And I can do save again. Control S will also save. Now when I go to the, you can see that it's changed over to needs, for example. Alright, so that's how you get started. You probably want to, although it's not critical, it's a good idea to rename the file itself to something simple, just a one-word name, right, like that. So that doesn't change anything that appears on the site, but it does change the link. If you need to link to that section somewhere else, you can now link to it based on the needs ID. So great. So we've changed that section. How about if we now change the content in that section? So to change the content of the section, all I got to do is to change this content right here that's following below. For example, if I get rid of this paragraph, delete it how? Do a Control S to save it. And what I'll see is that the paragraph is no longer appearing there. So at this point, you can just edit the text that's there, and I want you to pay attention here that some of these things, what you're editing here is called Markdown, and like I said, I'm not going to teach you how to write Markdown, but just for grins, you can see here that hashtags in front of text will create different titles. So for example, just briefly, if I change that to a second level title, the text will be a little bit bigger. If I change it to a fourth level title or a fifth level title, it'll be even smaller. So that's the idea. Anyway, like I said, I'm not going to teach you how to write Markdown. There's another video in this guide that will teach you how to do that. But I can, take out the rest of this text in here for sure. So I could easily select all this and get it out of here. That kind of gives me a blank page. And if I say save, you'll notice that there's nothing. The next section is already snugged in there. So sometimes when you're getting started and you need to just have some space to take up, I've created something called shortcode plugins, and you can use a shortcode plugin right here. It goes like this. It's called the Lorem plugin, and if I use it here, what it's going to do is it's going to inject a little bit of dummy text in here, which is kind of nice because it holds the section. Let's say we want a second level title, and we'll say a puppy. Right? And then other stuff down there, and then I'll take my little dumped in text here and I'll dump another paragraph. How about if I just make it one paragraph each? Okay. And now I've got to start on that section. Of course, I want to replace my little lorem thing with some actual text. A puppy. First you need a puppy! Exclamation. And if I want to, for example, in Markdown, emphasize that, I can do a double on either side, and you'll notice that the word puppy is now bolded. A single one in Markdown gives you italics. Okay? So that's the way you do some basic editing. At this point, if I wanted to, I could just get rid of, I can select these and get rid of all the rest of the sections in here. Probably going to leave the comments one just for grins. Now, if I go ahead and try to duplicate that, if I right click on the file and say duplicate, I can say, let's say, needs, first, let's call it first, and then let's change, well, of course we want to put the weight at like 20, like I said, because we want it after, let's call it first steps. And let's just call the link first. Okay. And then we'll have some different titles in here, right? Let's say crates, and then leash leashes. So like first steps. Alright, so if I do that, you can see that my site now only has 2 sections. Oh, I guess that's leases. How about leash? Leashes. Okay. You can see that my section or my page only has 2 sections now because I've deleted all the rest of them. And in my menu, I just have 2. And in fact, if you make it long enough, you'll see that the menu's choices are just over here on the right. Okay. So there's the beginning, editing your own pages, taking the site that was there and starting in on your own content. Okay, that's just the very first cut on doing this.